Against all odds, your team made it to the NFC Championship game. No one expected you to be here, but you managed to get by the Bucks in the wildcard round, upset the number 1 seeded Detroit Lions, and yeah, you didn't make it to the Super Bowl, but you were still one game away from the Super Bowl, and it was all because of the star-studded rookie QB JD5, a couple of breakout seasons, a new head coach, and maybe a little luck to get the seeding you wanted. But now going in the next season, I'm sure a Super Bowl is on the injuries, an aging roster, and not the best coaching on all levels hampered the Washington Commanders this season and led them to 5-12. But there's still hope. The Super Bowl window is still open. JD5 will return healthy, and now you have the number 7 overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft. Arguably the most important pick in the 2026 NFL Draft because it will decide whether the Washington Commanders will be Super Bowl contenders or just ass. Hello everybody, my name is Manny Mays, and today we're going to be going over the top 5 options that the Washington Commanders have in the 2026 NFL Draft. If you like the video, like the video. If you want to subscribe, then subscribe. It helped me get to 1,000 by the end of the year. Alright, without further ado, let's hop straight into it. Yes, we have more pressing needs. Yes, I love Jacory Krosky-Merritt too. However, if we draft Jeremiah Love, we out the gate have a top 10 offense. He just is that good. If you see his college highlights, watch his college highlights because he is just moving different. 4.36 speed, that is speed you cannot ignore. He will completely flip the field, and defenders need to respect his presence so much that it will definitely take eyes off of Jaden. So not only are we drafting the 1A best player in this draft, we are also just gonna draft a player that will take the burden off of Jaden and will still fix the problem of our offense being predictable and rudimentary. Also, with how we're trying to move around the line, I think they want to run the ball more anyways. So the best option that the Commanders have is just going full offense and drafting Jeremiah Love. And the biggest problem with this is that it probably won't happen, as the Titans and Giants are both eyeing up Jeremiah Love. However, I think they're doing that more out of, we can't let this guy fall into the Commanders' hands, because the Titans also need a wide receiver and the Giants already have Cam Scatterboo. But this guy is so good to where he is forcing teams to ignore their needs and just draft him. So yeah, if Jeremiah Love is on the board, we take Jeremiah Love. Would you be surprised if I told you the second best option for the number 7 overall pick would be to not draft anyone with the number 7 overall pick? It sounds weird at first, but it makes more sense over time, so let me explain. Brian Thomas Jr. is a wide receiver for the Jacksonville Jaguars right now. He's only in his second year and he's only 23, but he's not having the best time over there, because as you can see in the top right, he originally, his first year, had over 1,000 yards by a long shot, and then his second year, he couldn't even get close to that. So what happened? Well, from my point of view, he went from Mac Jones, who was slinging that thing win or lose, to Trevor Lawrence, who was playing football in a, sophisticated way, and that just didn't get the ball around as much. And yeah, this is also some of BTJ's fault, as he was dropping the ball. However, I'm sure having a new offensive coordinator and practically a new QB as well for the season didn't help. So what if we traded that number 7 overall pick to the Jacksonville Jaguars straight up, just one-on-one, because I hear that Liam Cohen isn't too big a fan of Brian Thomas Jr. anyways, and we just take Brian Thomas Jr. and place him in as the Washington Commanders wide receiver number 2 or 1, depending on how Terry feels about it. Look, all I'm saying is that this guy was formerly Jaden Daniels' teammate. They already have chemistry. He's proven to be a top 15, heck, maybe even top 10 receiver with a better quarterback. So if you want to fix the wide receiver problem that the Washington Commanders currently have, considering the second best wide receiver on the team is Treylon Burks at the moment. I love Treylon Burks. I like him. I want him to stay on the team. But we need a little bit better if we want to compete for Super Bowls here. And I feel like adding Brian Thomas Jr., a young, dynamic receiver, would be perfect. And so, yes, that is the second best option, even though I still find this unlikely. because the most likely option, if I was a betting man on who the Washington Commanders were going to draft at number 7, would actually be Caleb Downs, because for a long time, Caleb Downs was my favorite option for the Washington Commanders, but over time I realized how much more help the Washington Commanders offense needed in comparison to the defense, and that was made even more apparent by the offseason and how much help the defense got with signings to Nick Cross, Adolfo Owe, Charles Omenihu, and so forth. Right, Leo Chenal, the list can go on, but that shouldn't be the reason why we should downplay or deny how much impact drafting Caleb Downs still would have, because Caleb Downs at safety, especially in tandem with Nick Cross, would genuinely be a generational safety backfield if it's played out right. And yeah, this would truly be a young DB core that's hungry and ready to get out there. And honestly, if we do draft him to be our starting safety, I am curious if we would have the youngest DB defensive backs in the league. But let me circle it back. The point I'm trying to make is that with the two offensive players I've already mentioned, they're a lot more unlikely, and who actually may fall to the number 7 spot is Caleb Downs. And if we do still draft Caleb Downs, then he will add a lot more safety to this defense, and overall would make this defense maybe top 15 easily, and maybe top 10 as well. And although JD5 may still have trouble with the offense, the defense would be in much safer hands, and we wouldn't have to worry too much about letting games go into a shootout as often. So I do feel drafting Caleb Downs would still be a great move. I would be happy with it, and that's why he's my number 3. At number 4, I got drafting a wide receiver outright at number 7, in this case Makai Lemon. And look, this may seem counterintuitive because, hey, the Washington Commanders need a wide receiver. You mentioned how much the Washington Commanders need a wide receiver. You need to get JD5 help. But I'm going to just say it how it is. I don't know if any of these receivers are number 7 overall pick material. Look, because even if we expand it beyond Makai Lemon, who I think is the best one out of the 3 I'm about to mention, because he is slippery, he's elusive, he's got a little wiggle to him, and it seems like he'll really make a 10-yard play into a 30-yard play, and I like that. And it'll add a nice little balance to Terry. But Makai Lemon played in the Pac-12 his whole career, and they don't play defense over there. Garnell Tate may just be the sidekick to Jeremiah Smith, or the rookie wide receiver over there. And, you know, he played at Ohio State. Of course he's going to get boosted. And finally, Jordan Tyson, he's always nicked up and injured with some nagging little injury. Who wants that on the team? What I'm saying is, to sum it up, yes, we need wide receiver, but I feel like the number 7 overall pick, if they drafted one of these guys with it, would be a little bit of an overdraft. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like it would be a bad value pick, but a good position pick, if that makes sense. I'd still be fine if they pick a wide receiver here just out the gate, but I would feel like they left some meat on the table. My final 5th option would be to simply trade back into the late 1st round and get your 2nd round pick back, man, because having only a 1st and a 3rd round pick really hinders on how much this team can grow in the next upcoming years without these draft picks. So it would be a benefit to get more young players in the building. However, this obviously sacrificed the win now mentality that the Washington Commanders have, with Jaden Daniels not having to pay him on a full QB max contract or whatever. But I listed some players up above that would still make an impact to the team and still fill in needs that we have. So the question is here, if you want to even consider this option, is just, do you want to take the risk at taking less impactful players now in order to build a better team? Because it's more of a gamble. That's why I put the luck box here. They could turn out to be Mikey, Trey Amos. They could turn out to be Cam Gill. Or they could turn out to be Ben Sinnott. That's the thing, you know? You never know with this team. But I think this option still has some value. I think it would also just be killing 2 needs with 1 stone. This draft honestly isn't too bad, so there's still talent to be found. I listed the names up above again, check out their highlights. But this is still my 5th option because people never trade back, at least not like this, and I don't think this is a part of Adam Peters' game plan, so it's probably not going to happen. Alright, and those are all the options I believe the Washington Commanders have. If you liked the video and what I had to say on them, like the video, subscribing would help me out a lot, trying to get to 1,000 by the end of the year. If this video seems a little rushed or underproduced, it's because it is. I got sick while trying to make it, so yippee. But hey, we do our best over here. Hope y'all have a good day. Peace.